a great honour and a privilege to be participating in this Mass from further afield than we would like on an occasion such as this. If my memory serves me correctly, I was originally approached regarding the concept of this Mass as far back as 18 months ago, I think. My word, what a lot has happened in the world since then. And if there's maybe one lesson that we can all learn about the experiences of the last 18 months, it's how fickle the world is that we live in, how easily things can go wrong, and how important it is that we place our faith and trust on the things that stand the test of time. And one of the most important aspects of our lives that stands the tests of time and beyond is our faith. And that's why we gather here today. We gather here in this Mass of Thanksgiving for someone who has spent a lifetime in preaching the faith and sowing those seeds of faith in each and every one of us who has encountered him in that time. And for that, we are honoured to give thanks at this Mass for the lifetime of grace that the Canon has instilled upon everyone else who has encountered them. But he needs a huge element of grace instilled in him by the Lord in order to do that. And for that, we give thanks at this Mass this morning. Very appropriate readings that we listen to for an occasion such as this. It may well be by coincidence, but that's the second day in a row that we've listened to the call of Jeremiah in our first reading at Mass. We listened to it at the St. Patrick's Day Mass yesterday morning as well. And it's a reminder to us that God has a plan for each and every one of us in our lives. And that stands the test of time as well, whether it be the call of Jeremiah, whether it be the call of St. Patrick, or whether it be the call of the Canon himself, preaching the word and bringing communion to those who wish to receive it in his own wee corner of the kingdom. Every one of those individuals who are called are given that plan by God. And it's a privilege in order to participate in God's plan for all of us. But particularly, I would suggest on an occasion such as this, as one of his priests. Every one of those individuals, whether they be prophets or saints or all the great priests who have served this archdiocese throughout the years and the generations, they will all have done that with a profound sense of duty, of honour, of privilege, and not without sacrifice as well in their lives. I'm sure, given the fact that this is the diamond anniversary of the Canon's ordination, it tells us, common sense tells us, that he's been around the block a few times in ministry. He could tell a tale or two about his ministry and everything that he has encountered. But in the main, it's an honour, it's a privilege. That's what our responsorial psalm and St. Paul, in the words of our second reading, refer to. What a privilege and an honour it is to be in communion with the blood of Christ, to break bread together, to act in the person of Christ, bringing the body, the blood, the soul, and the divinity of Christ to all those who wish to participate in that life of discipleship in their own small way. And that's what the Canon has done for the last 60 years. Not without sacrifice, for those of us who know him, certainly looking back at his missionary life, although you had to, I'm sure, be there to actually really appreciate what missionary life was all about. It's well known that the Canon suffered ill health in his time out in Bauchi. He also had to retire from ministry a wee bit early because of ill health. And it's perhaps a reflection of what he gave in a lifetime of ministry. I can honestly say that hand on heart as a priest of only 7 years, that it's incredible the sacrifice that you have to make. But it is an honour and a privilege. To reach the 60-year mark is something very special indeed. When God formed us all in the womb, like he refers to in that reading from the prophet Jeremiah, he brings us from the womb for a particular purpose and with particular gifts. And we hear Jesus in that gospel passage say, "Go out into the world and teach the good news." I think another good word for teach is the word preach. And I think that of all the individual gifts that the Canon has given the people who have encountered them over the last 60 years, It's the gift to teach and preach the good news effectively that undoubtedly stands out. Definitely one of the best preachers that I have ever heard. And I make no apology for saying that I'm probably the same as a lot of people who sit in our pews week in, week out, that it takes a lot to grab my attention. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who feel the same way. Very much, I was a man who grew up in my childhood and in my young life that I kind of switched off when the priest started his homily after about 30 seconds or so. They need to be able to grab you. It's a gift. The gift to be able to preach and teach the word of God effectively is a real gift, and very few have it. But the canon has it. He has it in abundance. Again, looking back at my own experience, I went from being a young man that never really listened to homilies that much in my young life to being intrigued by what he was saying, to be intrigued by what he was going to see in preparation to going to Mass each and every Sunday. And like any good preacher, also being pushed out of my comfort zone occasionally. And that is what any good preacher should do. The word of Christ at times can be very challenging, and we should be pushed out of our comfort zones at times. I can recall on numerous occasions walking out of St. John the Baptist in Falthouse and saying maybe to family or close friends, "Did you hear that homily today? I think he was speaking to me. I think that message was for me and for me. I think he was getting at me there." And I can pay the canon no greater honour or praise than to say that very often the response from my cohorts who I was liaising with and giving that message is they would look me in the eye and say, "Do you know something? I was thinking exactly the same thing myself. I thought he was speaking directly to me." To be able to preach the word effectively like that is a gift, and it's a gift that not many people has. And if there's one thing that I would say in this little bit in presenting a note of thanks to the canon at this Mass, it would be thank you for preaching and teaching that word so effectively in your priestly ministry. For that, we give thanks at this Mass. We give thanks for his capacity to break bread together in communion with Christ, to nourish us all by receiving the body and blood of Christ as he acted in the person of Jesus, and to preach and teach that word effectively. One final thought, something that I would reiterate that I've already said to the canon when he was kind enough to preach at my own Mass of Thanksgiving the day after my ordination. On an occasion such as this, my mind goes back to a rather charismatic teacher of canon law that I had when I was back in my seminary days. And he says, "Always remember when you go back to your parishes, the punters want three things. They want to be inspired, they want to be instructed effectively, and they want to be nourished by receiving the body and blood of Christ." I can think in my own lifetime of no one who has served so effectively in providing those crucial three facets of priesthood as the canon does and has done throughout his life. For that, we give honour and praise and thanksgiving at this Mass today.